I'll start off with saying I didn't have a bad childhood when I was growing up. It was decent. I mean, my parents were fair to me, but on the other hand, they weren't fair to each other. They was always at each other's throats, fighting, bickering, arguing. Did it affect me? Well, of course it affected me. I mean, it affected me on how, I guess, I was towards them. I mean, I didn't disrespect them or anything, but I kind of stepped back from it, because, I don't know, that was my nature at the time to do something like that, I guess. I carried on through like that for a long time. But anyways, fast forward to when I was 13, the first thing I did was drink a beer. And from there, when I was 16, I picked up smoking weed and all that. But with my parents, my dad, he was always on the road all the time, which I respect that because he had to support us and all that. And my mom, we went to church, but we didn't go to church. We went to church so she could make herself look good, make herself presentable to everybody else. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. It was a different world. It was a lot of fighting and arguing and carrying on, and her, the way she was, I don't know how to put it, it's just hard to talk about, but it was just her being her, and she's still like that to this day. And I've tried to reconcile with her and all this, and we've never had a relationship with each other, ever. I mean, and my dad, I love him to death, and we got a great relationship, but when I was younger, we didn't have that relationship. But now we got a better relationship now than we did when I was younger. So there's a lot to it. When I turned, like I said, when I turned 16, I started smoking weed, and I picked up on my drinking beer and all that. Then when I turned 18, my dad showed up to our house, and she called the law on him, tried to put him in jail, and said, "If you don't leave, I'm gonna have you put in jail." I said, "Well, he goes, I'm going." So that was my chance to get out, and that's what I did. And so we moved back home. I moved back home with him in Fleming County, and lived there for years. I don't know, moved back there when I was 18, and from there, it just got worse. I mean, with the partying and carrying on, I mean, I couldn't even hold down a job. I'd go from one job to another, just paycheck to paycheck, just, thinking I had this, and I was going to get it, but never did. So then from there, I moved out on my own, got married, and I thought I was ready to start a family, but he seemed different. He said, "No, you're not ready." So at 20 years old, I was ready to start a family. I then got married, and I was back out on my own. I was doing good. I quit all the dumb stuff from the drinking, smoking weed, doing pills and all that. And then it picked back up when I picked back up on the pills when I was 22. I cut my ankle with a chainsaw, so I got prescribed pain pills. I said, "Well, I'll monitor these. I'll do good on them." That didn't happen. It just got led into pills. Then we started going to Florida, doing that, whatever they was doing down there, doing 30s and all that. Going down to them doctors down there. Was coming back, would sell them and go back down every month, just do that back and forth until that run out. And it was just pure insanity the whole time. It was just chaos the whole way. Then that turned into doing coke and, smoking crack here and there, stuff like that. And I mean, that's when I was a tree trimmer. And I tree trimmed till I was, I don't know, like I was, how old was I? 32? Something like that, 34 it was. It was just wild times in the tree trimming business. I just couldn't stop. I couldn't gain control of what I was doing. I mean, I trimmed trees for 14 years, but the 14 years was one thing after another. It just led into everything. And when I moved away from Fleming County to northern Kentucky, that's when I got introduced to meth. I said, "Well, let's try this out, see what happens. Worst thing ever. it was, I don't know. It led me into losing my home, my vehicles, just all my relationships with everybody that I had with. I lost my relationship with my dad because I would never come around. I was always I'd call him, but I would never come around. But how you doing? I'm doing good. And there, 3 seats to the wind, been up for days and didn't know where I was at. I was just out there in the darkness by myself. And it come to a point, and I got fed up with being fed up. And 2016, I come to Open Door Hope. Sorry.
Your time, brother.
Well, anyways, 2016, I come to Open Door Hope because I got tired of being fed up with myself and the things I was doing. I was wanting to do the right things. I was there for the right things, but in the back of my head, I was like, when I get better, I'm up out here. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna stay sober. I'm gonna go to church and all this and that. And I did for a while after I left. First time I was there for 8 months. I was doing good. I had a good job. I was working KI lumber and all that. And something popped in my head one day. I said, well, I'm gonna go back to Carrollton, work at NAS, where I was at before. And and I tried that for 2 months. And I said, well, this ain't working. So if I'm gonna stay sober, I gotta get away from this. So I quit that, moved up, got up out of Carrollton, and went back to Eastern Kentucky, to the mountains. Bad idea. Very bad idea. I said, well, I'm gonna go, hang out with some old people that I haven't seen for a while. I said, I'll be all right. First I started out with smoking weed. And I started out with drinking beer again. And it was like, I seen people around me hitting meth pipes and stuff. I said, well, give it, one hit won't hurt. 3 months later, it was, I was just off to the races. I didn't come out of the mountains for 3 months. I was down there for the whole time. And, I done good after I left this part out, after I first left Open Door Hope. I done good for 9 months. Something like that. First 6 months done good, then the last 3 months wasn't so good. I was involved in a lot of stuff, a lot of running dope and stuff like that with some people. Actually, one of my exes and some of her friends, because I had a truck, they had the dope, it was free to me, so I could get it anytime I wanted to. All they had to do is call me up and say, I need a ride, I'll give you some dope. Simple and easy enough. So that's what I did. So it finally got to the point where we was in the mountains and we literally got stuck in the mountains. And we've been up and down these roads a million times. And just one night, just so happened, we got stuck, literally just bottomed out in the middle of the road. And I was sitting there thinking, I said, well, I was high, so everything. I said, this is God's way of telling me to stop and slow down, go back to where I knew that I needed to be. And so that's what I did. I come back up here, back to where I need to be, and I'll be forever grateful for this place right here. Because it gave me the tools I needed to learn from where I was at before to come back to where I needed to be. And I prayed to God to get me out of that mess down there and it won't happen again. And we sat in the mountains for 3 days straight, middle of winter, 20 degrees. And if y'all ever been in the mountains, 20-degree weather, top of the mountain, that's bitter cold. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely a humbling experience, but he wasn't going to get me out there until I asked for forgiveness. He was going. He showed me what he could do, and if I didn't, I don't know how to put it. If I didn't, ask for his forgiveness,
you didn't humble yourself.
to humble myself and to get me out of that mess, he wasn't gonna do it. And it was middle of the night, and nobody knew where we was at. 3 o'clock in the morning, we get a knock on the window. Y'all need help? Like, where'd you come from? And we've been up for days already, and it was like I was comatose. Didn't know where I was at. I didn't even recognize where I was at. And I said, where we at? She said, y'all been in the mountains for the last 3 days? I was like, I don't remember none of it. It was all just a blur. So they pulled us up out of the mountains. I dropped my ex off at where she needed to go, and I made my way back up here. It took me a day and a half, but I made it back up here. Because I was trying to debate on, like, well, do I want to go back up here, or do I want to stay down here? What I want to do, I don't know. So I sit in the Lowe's parking lot down in, where's that place at? Oh, it's down by, I can't think of the name of the place now. Middlesboro, somewhere. I think that's where it's at. Pineville is where it was at, down there close to Pineville. I sit in the Lowe's parking lot for at least a half a day trying to figure out what I want to do. Either come back up here or stay down there. And Paul Hamilton, talked to him. I don't know if anybody knows him or not. He's a preacher out to Cropper. Heritage Christian. And I talked to him, and he said, what are you doing? I said, no good. He said, what do you mean you doing no good? He said, well, I know you've been doing no good. You ain't been around. That's what, that's what we do. When we ain't doing no good, we don't come around. So he talked me into come back up here, so I did. So I made my way back up here. Actually, when I first come back up here, I stayed out in the inlets, right where I knew there was stuff at, but I didn't go there. So I slept in my truck that night. Then I made my way back to Shelbyville the next day and made it back to, which is Awake Ministries now, and made it back there. Then it was, I had a choice. We all have choices. Everything I've done in my life has been a choice. And I had a choice. My truck I was planning on making payments to a car lot here in town. So, well, if I get rid of my truck, I'm gonna have the problem of wanting to leave when I want to. So I called him up and said, come get it. He said, what's going on? I said, just come get it, because I don't need it. It's bad news for me, because if you don't come get it, I'm gonna end up leaving again. So they come got it, and I went back through the program again. Was there for 7 months the second time. And that time it stuck. It was like, believe me, it took everything in me to fight that off, that urge just to go back to the old lifestyle, because it's easy come, easy go. Anybody's been in that life before knows how it is. I mean, but this life here is so much easier, so much better. You don't have to worry about where you're gonna sleep, what you're gonna eat, who can you go to get money from, this and that. Now it's a life of abundance, joy, peace, blessings. Just, yeah. But yes, that Stella right there is definitely a blessing to me, because I've been one kid since I was 20 years old, and I'm 42. Yeah, so. But yeah, it's definitely stuck this time with where I want to be at and what I'm doing. I'm working a job now that I'm running the business. I don't, I've been doing it for almost 5 years now, and I've got I got 4.5 years of sobriety right now. So, and God blessed me with everything I've got now, from my job to my, everyday life, to my wife, to my baby. Just everything He's blessed me with is from Him, not from me. I mean, we can't follow the crowd. We can't follow the worldly crowds. We got to follow Jesus and God, what He's got for us, because there's nothing no better than this. I mean, to sit here I don't even know half these people. So it used to bother me to give my testimony. Now I just wanna give it because, you know, it can help somebody else. And, it's, you know, everybody's testimony is different, but we all about the same. It's pretty much the same, we, you know, from your childhood years up to now. But it's definitely been a blessing to have, you know, be here and be a member of this church here now. So it's definitely a great blessing to have, you know, big church family. Ain't that right? But,
What was what got you to find, how did you find Open Door Hope the first time?
actually, I didn't put in there. I was in northern Kentucky, and I would just, my family would call me Forrest Gump because I'd walk everywhere. I'd walk 30 miles to just get a meal, no joke. And I was in Dry Ridge eating out of a dumpster. I wasn't eating out of restaurant food dumpster. It was prepackaged food, but it's still out of a dumpster. That's when I knew, my first time, that's when I knew I was at rock bottom. I needed to find a way out, and I did. So, but, you know, I had to humble myself to do it though. I didn't want to do it. It was a lot harder to, I mean, it was hard to do, but it was a lot harder the second time because I wanted it more than I did the first time. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, you got to humble yourself, that's for sure. And I still have my bad days, but I choose them bad days over any of the past bad days. I would, because I know where I need to go to. I know how to control, you know, my environment and all that too, without having to have much chaos around me, you know. So that's how I got to. Actually, I cried out for help to my sister, and she's actually needs help right now herself. So, and she won't. I don't know, but I asked her to help me, and she found Open Door Hope, and I just had to find my way there, and I did. That's what I did. So. But now I wouldn't ask for no better. It's just a blessing every day to get up and do what I do and be with my family and all that. That's right. But that's my part of my testimony.
My name is Heather. I'm originally from Hardin County, down by Fort Knox, down that way. Mine started when I graduated high school. I had graduated high school and, you know, 18, thought I could rule the world. Thought I could do anything and everything I wanted to do. I moved out of my parents' house. I moved down to a place called Eastview. Down there, it's not a good place to be at all. And I was living with a girl and her boyfriend and his friend. And they were making it, selling it, doing it, and I was just there because I didn't know what was going on. I was just 18 and naive, and so I started doing it because I was like, well, if they're doing it and they can stay up all night and it keeps them going, it can keep me going and, you know, help me be able to hang out with them. And so that happened, and then in December 7th of 2007, I got arrested for complicity in manufacturing of methamphetamines. I was 18 years old. That was the worst phone call I ever had to make at almost 5:30 in the morning to my grandmother because I didn't know anybody else's phone numbers. My grandmother answers her phone and says, "Who is this?" And I said, "Grandma, I'm at the police department. I'm getting arrested." My grandfather goes and gets my dad to come down there and told him that I'll have probably close to about 5 years locked up. Well, luckily enough, my family knew the judge that was doing my case, and I got 5 years probation. I went to classes for stuff like that, and they say, you know, you get dried up. I got dried up for a good 7 years. I had 2 girls in between that. I have an 11 and a 7-year-old from a previous relationship, and I'm currently fighting to see them because their father has them, and he was my abuser. Any kind of abuse you could possibly think of, I went through for 7.5 years with this man. Put me in the hospital twice. He got arrested. He went to prison for 2 years for it, got out, and the government actually gave him my kids back. Instead of leaving them with my family, they gave them back to him, and he won't let none of us see him. So I'm currently fighting him in court for that. But while I was with him, towards the end in 2016, he brought meth home again. And I told him, and I said, look, if we do this, I'm gonna go hard and I'm gonna go fast and I'm not gonna be able to stop. He said, I got you under control. In 2017, October 4th of 2017, I got arrested again for trafficking of methamphetamines between Oldham County and Henry County lines. It was the largest bust that Henry County has ever made in their county. I was on the news for it and everything. I spent close to about a month in jail for that. I got out on pretrial diversion, was doing drug tests and doing all that. Well, I thought I could control it. So I started smoking weed, doing pills again, and then I met up with a guy that I found on an online dating site, of all things, and started doing meth again. Started missing my drug test, started getting high, I basically left my kids with my family at that time while their dad was locked up, because I thought that was the safest thing for them. Instead of being with me, I'd leave them with my family. So I signed over emergency parental rights over to my mother. And I basically ran the streets of Louisville until 2019. I was doing anything and everything I could possibly think of to get high. I was doing things that I shouldn't have done as a woman, but I knew I needed the money to get high, to stay high. And I started hanging out with one of the biggest dope leaders in Louisville, and I lived behind his house in a camper. In the middle of October of 2019, I overdosed. Well, that was my second time. My first time was in Muldraw, down by Fort Knox. It's a little town right there. It's not a good place to be either. I actually overdosed. Somebody had told me it was meth and it was baking soda, and I shot the whole thing up. And it basically was sucking all the water out of my system, and it sent me into complete shock, shut down everything. I went to the hospital and they told me that I was lucky to get there, because if I didn't, I would have died on scene. One of my friends that was my dope dealer was giving me CPR when the police and everybody showed up. And so I spent about 4 days in the hospital. I got a ride from a cab company that gave free rides to people that needed them. Went straight back down to where I'd just come from after overdosing and went and got high. Just went straight and got high. It was like, I ain't got nothing to waste. I ain't got nothing to live for. And I had 2 beautiful little girls waiting for me at my mom's house. And I didn't think nothing of it. And then still was getting high. And then in 2019, the middle of October, close towards the end of it, I overdosed again. I shot up fentanyl and didn't know it. I was the only one in the camper behind the dope man's house by myself when I did it, and I completely passed out. And I woke up 3 days later, couldn't remember anything, was slurring my words. Basically didn't even know my own name, didn't know how I got there, didn't know anything. And nobody was around. Everybody was gone for like Halloween, family times and stuff like that, getting ready to go do Thanksgiving and things. And the dope man showed up and said, I thought you left. He goes, I didn't know you were back there. He goes, I thought you were gone. He's like, I just didn't come back there and check because I didn't hear anything. And I was like, I had fentanyl. And I was like, because I knew, because when I had him check it, he said, well, this is mixed with something. And I was like, what is it? And he was like, it has more fentanyl in it than it does meth. And I was like, that's probably why I just probably basically almost overdosed. And then November 13th at 4:20 on Friday the 13th at 4:20 in the morning, that's the funniest thing. We were in Indiana and we were getting ready to cross the state line. She's probably hungry. We were getting ready to cross the state line with probably close to about a pound or more of meth in the bed of the truck, with probably about 6 bags full of, like Kroger bags full of marijuana in the bed of the truck. And we get pulled over for the wrong colored light on the license plate. We get out, there's a stolen Louisville Metro handgun in the truck, and there is syringes, there is all this drugs and stuff. And luckily enough, because I basically fessed up to what I had on me, all they charged me with was drug paraphernalia, an ounce or smaller of methamphetamines. They didn't charge me with anything else. And I was in the back seat of the cop car. I don't remember the cop's name. All he had was black hair, glasses, and a black goatee type thing going on. I was so high I couldn't remember his name, like my life depended on it. And he looked at me and says, "We can give you help if you let us get you the help." And I said, "I know I need the help, I just don't know how to go about getting it." And he said, "Well, the one thing you need to do is you need to let go of everything and let him help you." And I said, "Who?" He said, "God." And I knew right then and there that I needed to change everything about my life. And in December of 2019, I was locked up in Clark County Jail. New Year's hits, and I promised myself that I was going to get better for myself, for my kids. I was going to do everything I needed to do. I was actually going to get out in March of 2020, and then COVID hit, and it put everybody on lockdown. Nobody could get in, nobody could get out. And so I was currently just sitting there, just waiting. And what was actually really cool about it is there was a recovery program up there that came to want to help some of the women start getting into their programs. And they asked me, and I said, "Well, I'm not originally from here." And they said, "Don't matter if you're from here or not, we can help you." So I got accepted into that one. Well, then 2 weeks later, I got my papers to be released from Clark County, and then I got sent to Oldham County because I had a warrant for my arrest with no bond in Oldham County for the trafficking charges that I got. And so I come down here, and I went to court via Zoom and stuff, and my lawyer put in for me to get help for drug abuse. I've never previous had rehab or anything like that, so the judge said I could get it. Awake Ministries had an opening. They only had one opening, but they had 5 people waiting for it, and they had to all do interviews. And so I did my interview, and she said, "Well, I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see and get your paper signed off and see if we get you approved." I said, I think that was the longest week I ever waited. May 18th, probably about 8 in the morning, and here comes the CO and says, "You're getting out." And I said, "I have no bond here. What do you mean I'm getting out?" And he said, "You're getting released." I said, "Do you not understand I can't get released?" I didn't know what was happening, so I went up front and I seen the girl that had done my interview was awake, and I asked them, I said, "Who am I getting released to?" And they said, "To Awake Ministries." And I said, "Oh, really?" I was so scared to death. I'd never done anything like that. I didn't know what it consisted of or anything. And so I went on May 18th. I was there till May 21st of 2021. I spent a year there, which it was the best year of my life because it helped me reevaluate my life. It helped me figure out who I am as a person and where I belonged in this world, because I always saw myself as the black sheep of the family, because that's how I was treated growing up. My grandmother basically shunned me from the whole family when I was little. She didn't want me. She told my parents to have an abortion. She didn't want nothing to do with me when I was born. And so basically that was how I was treated my whole life, in school and everything, because I just grew up, that's all I knew. And me and her have talked. I've forgiven her for that, and she said that was just her not being who she needed to be as a grandma for her granddaughter, because she saw that she hurt me more than mostly anything, you know. And I came from a good family. My parents were divorced, so, you know, divorced kid of family. Me and my sister, we're the crazy ones of the family. She was in active addiction too. She's been clean for about 12 years. She was addicted to cocaine, and she lived on the streets for a really long time too. And she got different help. She actually went to a hospital facility and got help that way. And that was probably when I was about 14 years old, and she's 40 years old now. So she's doing really great. She just had her son 3 years ago. She didn't think she was ever gonna be able to have kids, and she just had one too. So, but I praise Awake Ministries, because I mean, I didn't understand who God was for me. I didn't know, how to truly take him as like a father figure. And my sponsor, I don't know if anybody in here knows her, Leah Nelson. She was my sponsor, and she was the greatest sponsor I could ever have for, a woman sponsor. And just being there and just being able to refocus my life on myself and Christ, and just figure everything out, and know that, there's more to life than doing the drugs and living that crazy lifestyle and thinking you think it's cool then, but it's really not. It's just basically you're deteriorating away to nothing, because you basically are. You don't eat, you don't sleep, you just are up being high. That's what your body focuses on, your brain focuses on. and that's what you think you need, but you really don't need it. You need more to life than just that. And I have a really good job now. They actually helped me find my job. The job that I work for, they actually help people in recovery keep jobs. It's a stay-at-home job, so I'm able to be at home with her and take care of her. And I'm currently, like I said, I'm fighting for my oldest two. I was having supervised visits with them, but then their dad put a stop to that because I don't know why, he just did. And I'm currently fighting to have visits with them again. And they went through a lot of seeing me and their father. He was in active addiction with me, and they saw a lot of things they shouldn't have seen as children from me and him doing things we shouldn't have done to each other. I abused him, he abused me. It was a back and forth thing. And it wasn't all just him, it was me also. I did things to him and he done things to me. And my oldest one saw a lot of it and tried to shield my youngest one from it, and that should have never happened. That's my oldest one. There was one time she was little and we were sitting on the bed and she put her arms around me and she said, "Mommy, I promise you I'll protect you." And I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean you're gonna protect me?" And she goes, "I promise nobody's ever gonna hurt you again like Daddy did." And that was the worst thing to hear from my child, because she should never had to hear that or see anything like that, especially my youngest one. And it hurt more than anything. And I've talked to them about it now, and they understand that the situation wasn't the right situation, but we've grown through it and we've talked about it. My youngest one, she still doesn't really understand, but I talk to her in a way that she can understand. And she's just like, "Okay, Mom." So the 7-year-old brother was like, "Okay, like let's go do something." But no, we actually met at our church at Heritage.
This is the third part of the testimony.
Yeah. This is the third part of it. But I'm so thankful for all of it. I'm 2.5 years sober from being at a wake. I wouldn't change any of that for the world, because if I went back to the life I did, I'd probably die. Because I've already tried to die twice. If I went one more time, I'd probably be dead. And that's never going to happen again. And so the third part of all of this, when I started coming to church, I went to Heritage Christian Church out in Cropper. He was going there, and he was, we didn't really talk for like the longest time, and then one day we just started talking.
Oh, this is how it went.
Isaac.
Alright, this is how it went. I walked up to her one day and said, "I'm interested." You know what she does? Pass my belly. She said, "Okay."
I really did. We were just standing there talking.
I was like, "I'd like to get to know you." And she's like, "Okay."
And I was nervous because I was in the women's house and I didn't know how to respond, because I never really had. It was all basically me going through high school and stuff. It was me going to the guy, not the guy coming to me, and making myself available for them and them not making themselves available for me, type of thing. And so when he did that, it made me nervous, so I did. I had him on the phone. I said, "Okay," and then I ran off and I told my friend by the car in the parking lot. She said, "What'd you do?" And I told her, and she said, "Really?" And I said, "Well, what am I?" She goes, "You go tell him, okay? You go tell him you like him." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
But when we did get the chance to talk, I told her, I said, "Since you're still in the program and stuff," I said, "I'm not going to say a word to you. I'm not going to be around you. I'm not going to hinder your process of what you're doing with your recovery." I said, "Because that's the number one failure right there.
Yeah.
Being in recovery and having a relationship at the same time. That's for sure. And because you ain't thinking about yourself, you're thinking about that other person. And you're like, well, I can do this and do this too." Oh, it don't work. It does not work. But I told her, I said, "Until you get out of the program and do your thing, what you got to do," I said, until then, I said, I can't have nothing. I can't be around you. I can't talk to you. And it just.
And the crazy thing about that is when he said that, we actually changed the girls that I was in the house with. We wanted to switch it up, so we started coming to CR, and we started doing it here, and coming here and then doing it at Awake on Sundays for CR and having it twice a week. That helped me really understand a lot of about the steps, and we started coming to church here, and I found more focus and more determination by going to Awake, but also coming to this church, because this church just brought me in with open arms, and I never had that with the church that I grew up in when I was a kid. I grew up Southern Baptist, and very strict. You do what I say. If you don't do that, then you're not part of the church type thing. And I was like, okay, I'm 13, I'm leaving bad. And so when I came here, it was like so welcoming and so understanding of people with, you know, addiction issues and just everything. And then we started talking again after I got into transitional. And then we actually started dating December of 2021, and then in
it'll be 2 years in December.
I don't know. I'm not good with dates.
I deal with numbers every day, so.
Yeah. I have baby brain, honey.
But yeah, we've been together 2 years in December 28th, and we'll be married a year in October. So, and when we found out, which actually we took it upon ourselves, we moved in together, which I already had my place, but she moved in with me without us being married. So we had to fix that with him, and we did. We made it right, and we found out we was pregnant, and there she is.
He never thought, because he's 42 years old.
I never thought I could have
kids. And then I thought I couldn't either, because I actually was told by a doctor that I had endometriosis, and because of all the wear and tear I did on my body with the drug addiction and stuff, and just doing as much as I had been, that they didn't think I'd be able to have children anymore. And lo and behold.
And it also helps out when you both want the same thing in life. You want to both be followers of Christ, and you want to both want the same things for each other. You can't have one wanting the other thing and the other one wanting what you want them to want because they want something else. You can't change nobody's mind. They got to do it for themselves. And I'm just very blessed and thankful that she's that woman for me to grow in Christ with.
And this is the best relationship that I've been in, because all I knew was abuse and just a narcissistic person, and everything had to be done his way or it was the highway type relationship. So when he does things and he's like, "Well, you want to do it?" I'm like, "I don't know." Or like he'll ask me, then I'll be like, and I'll start getting fidgety, and he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Stop fidgeting, stop that.
But and
you don't have to live like it no more.
There's some, and most of the time it's fine, but then there's some days where certain things just trigger, and I don't mean for it to, but it happens. We all have those days, you know. Even with addiction, you know, there's some days where you just get so mad and you're just like, ah. But that's when you're like early on, and when you get this far into recovery,
Your turn.
it gets easier. It really does. And you just have to have that support system to be able to call or just text and be like, "Hey, you know, I need to talk." You know, my friend, she lives all the way in Texas. We'll text each other or we'll FaceTime and be like, "Hey, I need to talk." And she'll be at work. She'll be like, "Okay, go let me take a lunch break." And we'll just text each other and talk and stuff and things like that. And she has 2 years of recovery too. She packed all her things up and moved here to Kentucky from Texas, and just on a whim. Like, she was like, "I had to get recovery somewhere." She goes, "So I found it up here in Kentucky, and I came up here, and that was the best thing for her." And she's got 2 years of sobriety now. So.
Yeah, that's definitely the number one thing. You gotta speak out, because most of us are stubborn and bullheaded. I know I am. But it's easier. But it's easier for me today to talk about something than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you couldn't beat me with a hammer to get it out of my system.
Yeah.
Now I don't have no poker face. It's there. You see my face, there's something wrong with it. There's something going on. So, but yeah, it's so much easier to live this life. I love it. It don't get no better. I mean, I got everything I want.
I'm grateful and thankful for everything that I have. Like I pray for it all, because if I didn't have it, I don't know where I would be. If I didn't have prayer and just knowing that, you know, he was there for me, and he was there for me then, he's there for me now. You know, it's just grateful to understand and know that. Before, I didn't know any of that. And the crazy thing about it is the week leading up to me getting arrested, I was actually listening to Christian songs, like from the bands called Skillet and all these other different people, and I didn't even know they were Christian songs. And like little things just kept happening, building up to things. Because I was actually with the guy that I was dating, and we were at Cracker Barrel 2 days before we got arrested, and I was stealing stuff. I was boosting because I was high, and I actually had stolen a little tie beanie baby unicorn, one of those little keychains they have, for no reason, just because, you know, because you're high and you think it's cool. And so I took it out of my pocket and had a little cross necklace on it. And I was like, oh, I want another one of those so I can give it to my girls. I went in the store and hunted for a good 20 minutes and couldn't find it. And finally I just asked the lady, I said, I seen this little cross necklace. Do y'all have them? She says, we don't carry those here. We don't have them. We got rid of them months ago. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess it was just on there. And I mean, I walked back out to the car and he's standing there by the truck. And there's a church right across from the Cracker Barrel we were at. And he looked at me and he goes, do you want to go to church Sunday? And I said, what do you mean you want to go to church Sunday? And he said, I want to go to church with you Sunday. And I said, okay, if you want to go, let's go. And then 2 days later, I got locked up. So I really feel like that was something that was supposed to happen like that.
Nothing's a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason.
Put your hand down.
It's whether we grasp a hold of it, go with it, or we just ignore it. And there's a warning sign when you ignore it too, 'cause when you ignore it, it's just gonna push you that much further in that ditch that you can't bring yourself back out.
Yeah.
You got to speak out, you got to find a support group. That's all, that's the main thing with everything. And trust in God, that's for sure. Faith, my faith is so strong right now, that it's unbreakable, because it's, my faith today is stronger, it's so strong it is. It's unbelievable, but I enjoy every minute of it where I'm at now. So, but that's our story, that's our testimony. So, that's what we got.